Yes.
All right. Welcome back to the show, ladies. In this episode, we have a very special guest with us here today, Victoria. Victoria is a self love and intimacy coach, speaker, and host of the Love and Lattes podcast. After navigating her own journey through burnout, boundary challenges, divorce, and heartbreak, she turned those experiences into a mission to help women reclaim their confidence, deepen intimacy, and redefine their relationships. Through her work, Victoria blends self love, emotional wellness, and sensual empowerment to guide women through healing, personal growth, and powerful life transitions. She is passionate about creating spaces where women feel seen, empowered, and fully expressed. So, without any further ado, welcome to the show, Victoria.
Thank you, Jordan. I'm so stoked to be here.
I am so happy to finally have you here on the show with us. And I'm really excited about this episode just because we're going to be discussing healing after heartache. And I feel like this is something that so many women need because they have no idea where to even begin after trauma, divorce, abuse. So thanks again for being here. And the first question I have for you is what are some things people don't talk about enough when it comes to healing after heartache?
I think it's actually really hard for people to be honest about how they're really feeling.
Yeah.
Um, it's so much easier to, whether you were the one who ended it or left or the on the other side of the spectrum, people are probably more prone to attaching themselves to their friends and family, which is, if that's what you need, great. But you also need to be wary of what you let in because at this point, it's already been emotionally devastating. So, when people ask, how are you doing? You don't have to fake it. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to pretend. The healing journey is not linear. It's good. One day you're going to be on top of the mountain and you're going to feel so good because you're going to be so proud of yourself for doing the hard thing or for finally letting go or forgiving. And at the same time, the next day you're going to be pissed. You're going to hate everything, everyone, and you just need to be patient with yourself. And you also need to be honest with your feelings. And there's a short phrase that says, you can't heal what you can't feel. So
Yeah.
you need to be honest with what comes up and allow gradually people's perspectives, opinions to come in. But I think, yeah, I think it's really hard for people to truly be honest. Like when people are like, hey, how's it going? And it's like, honestly, I'm having a hard time or I'm navigating some shame because like in the divorce category, especially when a woman is going through it, people are like, but you had it all so good, or, how could she do that? It's not like he cheated. It's like, it doesn't matter. Let her be independent.
Exactly. That's so good. Thanks for sharing that. Do you think that it's normal whenever people are going through like their healing journey to, I guess, have those days to where they feel like they're super ahead and then other days to where they just feel utterly depressed and feel like they're making absolutely no progress? Like, do you think that's a normal part of the healing journey?
Yes. And there's a couple of reasons why. Like, again, it's one day you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, hell yeah, I'm on track to my goals. And you're going to feel, my hope is for you that you'll feel peace in the decisions and, you feel peace in that person's absence. However, yeah, the next day you wake up or maybe you even go to sleep and it hits and you're like, suddenly you're thinking about what if it could have been different? What if X, Y, and Z? Or you see something and it triggers you. You're going to have to learn how to protect yourself that way and let yourself know, there are ways you can like kind of take a few deep breaths and just be present. Don't ignore and don't try and like avoid it. Don't beat yourself up for feeling, the next morning you're like, honestly, like things are heavy right now and you deserve to respect and honor yourself in that moment. It doesn't make your worthiness any different than it was the day before. You're going to, they say you'll take 3 steps forward and a step back. And that's okay. It has nothing to do with the choice you made. Your emotions, the way you feel energetically is just part of the process. And there are things that are going to come up unexpectedly. And I always encourage people to honor that and you can honor what comes up and it could easily be switched in a matter of 90 seconds. However, breakups, divorces, none of that is as easy as people think it is. It's not sweep it under the rug. It's not, oh, like go to the gym and go hard and get the dream revenge body. Like you'll be at the gym listening to metal because you're so fucking pissed. You're gonna go home and take a shower and still be pissed.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that was a great question.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. So, on the days to where you feel amazing, what do you typically do whenever you feel like you're just thriving on top of the world and you can accomplish anything? Like, what's several things that you would typically do?
What I'm feeling on top of the world?
Yeah.
I That's a great question. Normally I love, my work, so I am very lucky and feel grateful for that. When I feel on top of the world, it's probably because I'm in a good routine, and I do think that's actually something people should do, especially as you progress into this healing journey for yourself, is start having a routine. You need to build a routine to get your system back online. And I always feel great if I'm working or even on my days off. When I'm feeling great, I love to read, but I especially love being outside. So take a walk, whether it's 10,000 steps or 3 miles, whatever, you know, flies your fancy. And I think it's great to you need to be present. The more present you can be, look around your surroundings, come up with three gratitude. You could say, I'm so grateful I got to go outside. I'm so grateful I got to enjoy my coffee. I'm a huge coffee girl, so definitely always happy when the coffee hits. I love cooking. That's how I tap into my creativity. So when I can create a meal, and share it amongst friends, or family, and I especially really it is important to me now more than ever to have that time where it's no calls, no meetings, no social media, just, after a shower, maybe I journal or I lay down and just take a couple of deep breaths and reflect. Those are ways that I feel really happy. I can also share like all the girly stuff. I love buying myself flowers and treating myself to a second coffee or matcha come 3 p.m.
I love that. Yeah, I think more women should do that instead of just like waiting for someone to do that for them. I'm like, why not do it for
Yes,
yourself, you know?
exactly. The more you start treating and dating yourself in the way that you want someone to do it, it's your nervous system is going to start accepting that, which helps with confidence, worthiness. And then, interesting enough, the world kind of shifts in your favor that way because you see yourself as that. You're like, actually, I am worthy of the flowers. I am worthy of the second coffee. And I'm worthy. And this is kind of going back to some people don't even consider it, but I am worthy of, you know, um, having a boundary with myself where I respect doing what it is I like, whether you like some show on Netflix, but you deserve that time to yourself because we're so good at like, let me give to others, let me give to my job, let me give to my family. It's like, no, you got to come back home to yourself.
Right. I love that. Dang, that's a highlight. Absolutely love that. So we talked about the good and like what you do, like whenever you feel like you're on top of the world. What do you
hmm
do whenever you feel like crap and like you feel like you're absolutely just you just want to lay in bed? Maybe that's what you do. I have like zero motivation whenever I have days like that.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you said like we talked about the good, let's talk about the bad and the ugly.
Sucks.
I would say I do understand that everybody's depths are going to be a little different. It is interesting I would say, like, I would name that feeling for me. I think I get sad or angry. So we can talk about both if you want, or
Yeah, let's talk about both.
okay. So, I think so sad because they do feel different in the body, physically and emotionally. When I'm sad, I definitely feel like everything is a little slower. I can feel that ping of pain. So to be honest with you, and I do think this is important for people to understand, it's important to be like, okay, I'm feeling sad. Why? What does this sad, like, what is this trying to tell me? And most of the time, it is a sad, I'm thinking about the potential of what has come to an end. I'm feeling sad for the good times when there were good times. And in those moments when I'm feeling sad, it's important to also acknowledge the reality of what it really was and what really happened. It's like, actually, I was anxious. I was made to feel these other feelings, which is unacceptable. And I can't forget the times, I was made to feel X, Y, Z. So the moment you kind of have that reality check, of actually, it is okay to be sad. It is okay to mourn the loss of something that you wanted. However, you can't stay there. That's no longer your reality. You have to come back and be like, this is what it was and this is where I'm heading. It can be within a matter of minutes. And I think it's important to practice forgiveness in that moment as well. Like it's okay to miss it. It really is. We're already in this process of trying to let go, to forget, but your nervous system will never forget that. So when it's angry, it is a different physical sensation where you might feel hyper, you might feel um, like you want to do so many things, and you're just like you're short, cutting yourself. So for me, I take it out on my runs.
That's
I'm
fine.
gonna go for a run. I do think it's also important to you can take that if like I know everyone's like, ew, I don't run. That is okay. You can take it if you want to go for a drive, please drive safely. At the same time, you can take that frustration in your writing. You can write everything down. Ask the same questions. What am I making this to mean about me? What is this in relation to? I'm feeling angry that they never did X, Y, and Z. I'm feeling angry that they're probably sleeping with someone else, anything. You can just pour it all out. And then whatever you write, you don't even have to look at it. You
Mhm.
don't. You can burn it, you can trash it, you can put it away for later. But the point is to recognize those low feelings and understand that you're a human and it's going to happen, but there is a way to work your way out of it.
Absolutely. I love that. That's super good.
Yeah.
So, whenever it comes to like grief and grieving the potential and stuff like that, what can you tell us about that? Like, I personally feel like that is grieving the potential of someone that really didn't even exist in the first place, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like they made themselves out to be this person that didn't even exist. I feel like that has personally been harder for me than grieving someone that has physically died. Do you agree with that?
I know exactly what you mean.
I'm like,
Because
yeah,
yeah, because when okay, so kind of comparing the two, death and grieving, like going through a heartache is the same thing as going through someone who's died. You're going to go through a grieving process.
right.
But when someone dies, they're not they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
You see it, they're going into the ground. And most of the time, if you are there, it's probably because you loved them in
Yeah.
some capacity. So you are like, you have to accept that that is how it is. You had no control over that. And that's pretty much it. And everyone processes the grieving for losing a loved one in their own. When it's the grieving of the potential, that is so much harder. And the reason why is because you spent so much time investing in what this was going to look like.
Mhm.
What this was supposed to be this. They were supposed to be my person. Like, yeah. So now you have to re-scramble, rewrite what you thought was supposed to be your future, your career. Like maybe you thought you were going to marry this person and start a family, and now you're like, what's left, And so that grieving process is just as long, but it's definitely a lot harder because you have to practice, those negative feelings. You have to practice letting them go, possibly incorporating forgiveness if that's something you want to do. And honestly, like I think it is really hard because especially when you really, deep down we all wanted it to work.
Right. Yeah.
And then when something that you had spent, a really pretty good chunk of time to, especially to be listening to this episode, to experience heartache, you're like, you know, well, now, you could be thinking about, well, maybe this will never be for me. They were it, period. And that's really hard to sit with. And I'll let you know that it's not true.
Mhm.
There is, when something comes to an end, that just means there's a lesson there, and you get to use that understanding in this journey and apply it to the next time you are ready to step into another relationship.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. I feel like so many people look at the divorce, like the marriage, the breakup, or the
Mhm.
relationship specifically as like a waste of time. But I'm like, you can look at it like
No.
that, but like I think it's really important for your healing to look at it as like a lesson. Like, what did I learn from that to where I can move forward now, if that makes sense. So, what do you think was the hardest thing that you had to accept during like the heartbreak? Whenever any time that you went through any type of heartbreak?
I think the hardest thing to accept in my experiences with heartache was what I had given, um, what I had poured into, wasn't being reciprocated. And then when you start to take a step back and see, is this the person, is this the person I want to be with? Are they fully capable of loving me correctly?
Right.
And if you notice, I think it can be hard to accept that when you realize the answer is no.
For sure.
It hurts so much because now you have to start putting together what is the best thing for me? Do you want, like, maybe you want to stay in this and maybe this is how you want to be. But I think the hardest thing for me was to accept that I no longer wish to be loved like this
Mm,
because I deserve better.
absolutely.
And is that in itself is I think, something that when people finally realize that, you've got two choices.
Yep. That is freaking tough, man. So what gave you, like looking back, what gave you the courage to know that like you what you needed to do just to walk away?
The courage. Oh man. The courage to walk away.
The strength specifically, I guess. Yeah.
For me and for anyone listening, you have to realize that you deserve better.
Hmm.
You have to, like, it's the recognition and the realization that you are a person, like I myself, I'm a huge lover. I have a big heart.
Hmm.
And the love I poured into something, for it to not come back and fill me in that same capacity, you know, for a relationship to not feel warm and instead feeling bitter and anxiety and hurt and to cry, like, no, this is, to finally be like, my picture of a relationship does not meet with the reality of what I'm in right now. And you are the person, not the other person. You can't change them.
Right.
And that's the other thing that's hard to accept. And for me, it was having the courage to be like, I can't change who they are. I can change myself. And I can read all the books under the planet about how to, make a relationship work, but I can't make something work if they're not deserving or willing to meet me in the ways that I love myself. So my courage was to, have that recognition of I do deserve better and I want to be loved fully and correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So many women do not realize that at all. Um,
Yeah.
Looking
And
back,
it can
go ahead,
go
sorry.
ahead.
No,
No,
you
you
go.
I would say I think what's really hard too, but and I'll be honest, like I think what it's hard for women to recognize is they'll sit there and think, well, like I'm gonna be alone. Like you're never alone, honey. Like, or it's 2026. You will never be alone. Like maybe you'll be single for a while, but you will never be alone. Like you have to have the courage to walk away because there will be people in your lives who will support you through this process. I myself, have people I called and, I stayed with my parents for almost 2 months because I had nowhere to live. And then suddenly, dripping and working our way back up. So you have to look past the what could go wrong and understand that you have to have hope and faith interlinked with I'm going to be okay.
Of
Like,
course.
even if you just say that, I'm going to be okay
Mm,
and go.
absolutely. I love that. So, what were some signs that you knew that you were healing, even though like you didn't recognize it at first?
Some of my favorite things I noticed, um, I'm going to name a few and then I'm going to kind of like hit one that I think people also need to really think about. So like I said, I love to cook. Um, and right before the end of my relationship, I had no desire to cook. And at some point, um, I noticed that I was eager to cook again. I was excited to do it, and it brings me joy. And I was like, this is wonderful. And the other thing I started noticing as I'm healing is the things that I want in my life, my goals, you can call manifestations whatever you want, but those ideas start coming back.
Yeah.
You're feeling more creative, you're feeling more motivated and inspired because now my nervous system is coming back online. I'm coming into a space of safety and abundance and love within myself. So I noticed that the things I wanted before, I just completely like they went into storage at some point because I was so honed in on this relationship trying to work. When that was no longer taking up space, it opened up the space for all the things that I wanted.
Yeah.
And the third one I want to say, and it was one of those things where I was like, I know I've made the right decision, but the sense of peace.
Mm.
Like if their absence creates peace, then you've done the right thing. I do have my moments of like, it kind of sucks. And then also, I don't have to be in that state of anxiety anymore. I don't have to feel like this anymore.
Right.
And I think that's something that, for anyone listening, just notice that.
Mhm. Yeah, that speaks volumes in itself for sure. That's so funny because I literally just recorded a podcast episode this morning talking about that, like to pay attention how you feel whenever you're with your friends, and then like whenever you're back with your partner, do you feel
Yes.
depressed? Do you feel sad? If you do,
Yes.
there's something wrong there, you know? Um,
Yes.
so in conclusion, what's one piece of advice that you would like to give to the women that are listening to this right now that are currently in the process of going through a heartbreak? I made a post and there's all kinds of feedback right now on Facebook, but I'm going to look at that. And if you could just share just one piece of advice that you would give to these women.
So, a piece of advice as they're going through heartbreak,
Correct. Yes.
my piece of advice, I don't know if I could do one, but I will. I think overall, it is so important to steady yourself, to be patient with yourself, and stay offline.
Yeah.
If you made the decision, I know there's no real breakup rule book, but personally, block them on everything they could have had access to because you don't need to see that name anymore. You don't need to be reminded of what ifs. More you stay offline, the less information you can consume because sometimes people see stuff and they go online and you start feeding yourself into something and what it's really important for you to just sit with your shit right now.
Yeah, I love
Sit with it and just be patient. This process has nothing to do with the lack of worth of you being loved. Like there is love out there that's going to meet you the way you deserve to be. And it may not sound like it right now, but the more you spend loving yourself and being kind and soft with yourself in this moment, you're going to prepare yourself for the better down the line.
I love that. That is so good. Thanks
Thank you.
so much for being here and for coming on the show. I'm sure that the women will absolutely love everything that you shared today. We will be sure to drop all of Victoria's resources below as well, to where you can contact her if you would like to contact her for any coaching, as well as her podcast and Instagram as well. So, with that being said, thanks again, Victoria, for being here on the show, and we will see you ladies on the next episode.